As Michael said, yeah, I called White House. Yep, I called White House, had a conversation. It's called a co-conspiracy. Okay. It is a messaging co-conspiracy. It is intentional. It is by design, and they've been doing it for a very long time. Now, Ms. Michaels, responds to tell her side of the story at an event. Here it is.
I go on CNN and I get the topics ahead of time. So one of them is that Trump is trying to revise history by asking the Smithsonian to revisit some of their installations.
What does that mean? Like art piece?
I wasn't sure.
Okay.
So I asked the same question. So I reached out to the comms team at the White House. I said, listen, this is going to come up. Can I ask you what installations is the administration taking umbrage with? Can you send it to me? So they send me a document and it's about 50 pages.
Oh my word.
Not one thing in the document, not one installation actually is about slavery. This one woman on the other side immediately goes to Trump is whitewashing slavery. So with unbelievable confidence, knowing what was in there, I'm like, no, he's not. And then when I said, no, he's not, then Abby Phillips and Richie Torres essentially, I guess, made some sort of assumption that I was trying to defend slavery. I'm not quite sure where they got that impression. We constantly talk about white supremacy, but we look the other way with black degeneracy. It begets white hostility that then validates and begets white degeneracy. And it's this impossible cycle. So I turned around to Richie Torres and I was like, do you realize that less than 2% of Americans white Americans owned slaves?
Wow.
And the reason I say this is I'm not trying to whitewash slavery. It's because not all white people are the enemy. White people, we really don't understand. We don't. And then black people are like, I don't have to explain this to you. And it's like, maybe you do. Maybe you do. And white people, even though you may not have been responsible for it and you don't want to get another lecture, I think you need to sit there and listen long enough to understand why the pain is still there.
What's the difference between a black redneck and a white redneck?
Color.
Same kind of people, same attitudes.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and same kind of results. One of the things I point out in this book is that, as late as the First World War, when mental tests were given in the Army, there were whites from any number of southern states who scored lower on those tests than blacks from northern states. So that anyone who comes out of that culture is likely to score lower on mental tests, to do less well in intellectual areas, whether they're black or white. Among the middleman minority, the question is why this particular kind of people are the targets of so much venomous hatred. And I think the answer is that they not only succeed, they succeed in a way which is a threat to the egos of other people. That is, you can envy a Rockefeller, but he's no threat to your ego because you say, listen, anybody can be rich if he's born a Rockefeller. But the guy who comes here, let's say from Vietnam or Korea, and arrives here with little more than the clothes on his back and a few words of broken English, and a decade later he has his own little business, and you see his son a few years after that getting ready to go off to Harvard or MIT, you got to ask yourself, you either got to, you've got to hate yourself for saying, my God, I've been stagnating, this guy was nothing and now he's risen up, or you're going to have to hate him. And most people, when they have a choice between hating others and hating themselves, they hate others.
So I'm tired of this tired narrative. You know what I mean? People say, oh man, everybody didn't benefit from slavery or everybody wasn't a slave owner. All right, let's start there. So what industries, much like lodging, is what I put in the chat GPT, and other things were created during and as a result of the transatlantic slave trade? We know many industries were created, like I mentioned, the lodging and the hotels. Okay, so this is what AI punched back out to me. Okay, the industries and sectors built around slave trade. Shipping and shipbuilding. Entire ports like Liverpool, okay, Bristol and Newport, to name a few, expanded shipbuilding capacity specifically for slavers. Insurance firms, Lloyd of London, built fortunes insuring slave voyages, rope making, sail making, barrel making, ironwork, supplied shackles and chains. This is a fact. We can find this. It's a paper trail. British and Dutch banks. So I don't want to hear nothing about, oh, Denmark and Sweden had nothing to do. I don't want to hear that. British and Dutch banks, Barclays, Baron Brothers, the Bank of England, French financiers, to name a few, directly profited by offering credit loans and marine insurance. American institutions, the Brown Brothers, Harriman, they all trace their wealth back to financing slave trade related commerce. We got textiles, the whole textile industries. You understand what I'm saying? Manchester, Lancaster, right? England mass producing cotton that they getting from slave labor. Birmingham supplied brass, iron, like that's what I just mentioned. The shackles and stuff like that, but the muskets and everything too. New England had the rum, as well as the central trade for goods exchange. Right, the slave ports, they had boarding houses, taverns, brothels, and warehouses to house all these people coming in and out of these ports. This is what your beachfront property. This is why it's worth so much today. What are you talking about? Built on your whole retail or your real estate for your beachfront property, thanks to the slave trade. What are we talking about? Right? Hold up. Nations created massive demand for sugar refineries, rum distilleries, cotton mills, rice mills, tobacco processing plants, and this was in Europe and America. So again, we got lawyers, notaries, clerks, and custom house official drew fees for contracts, bill of sales, all this. People are employed based on what? The slave trade. Auctioneers, brokers, appraisers, they made their livings directly working at slave markets. These people might not have owned them, you want to say, but what are we talking about here? These people are active participants, active beneficiaries. This is what you call a beneficiary. You trying to now argue that white people in America were not the beneficiaries of the transatlantic slave trade? Is that what we trying to argue now, Jillian? What are we doing? Is that what we doing now? Port cities, right? Like I just said, these port cities, beachfront property, Liverpool, Charleston, Havana, Rio de Janeiro, just to name a few, Los Angeles, Miami, Jacksonville, all these, name a beach. We can show you where they was getting the slaves in on. The lodging, hospitality industry is built directly on the outgrowth of slave trafficking, bro. Directly. All right? And we can go to Eric Williams, Capitalism and Slavery. We can go to David Richardson, Liverpool and the Transatlantic Slave Trade. We can go to Joseph Corey, Africans in the Industrial Revolution in England. We can go Marcus Rediker, The Slave Ship and the Human History. And we go Stephanie Smallwood, Saltwater Slavery. This is all documentation, man. So the talking points, they fall